Welcome to Chapter 4. We're going to be talking about similarities and differences in the sexual response cycle. There we go. We've looked at many of the misconceptions in the past, and we've looked at and analyzed what we have to work with and what causes our body parts to work. Now what we need to look at is exactly what happens to our body during sexual behavior. Masters and Johnson, who we mentioned in Chapter 1, are responsible for the first studies to determine what is going on. And they did this by examining the sexual responses of men and women under laboratory conditions. These conditions might not have set the mood, but the equipment does not look romantic, but they did find out what was going on with men and women. And they found out that we're more similar than dissimilar. We all appear to follow through the same 4 stages of the sexual response cycle with similar physiological responses at each phase. You might have learned about these in a psychology class as well. The 4 stages are excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. Later researchers added desire to the first stage and to add 5, since most of us need to want to have sex before they actually enter the rest of the cycle. For whatever reason, there are many. The 2 major physiological responses we see in both sexes are vasocongestion and myotonia. While these terms are not romantic, they are important to understand. So make sure you read those carefully. During excitement in both sexes, the first response is a vasocongested response. As a result of tissues becoming engorged with blood, we see erections in males and vaginal lubrication in females, although neither sex should be considered fully prepared for intercourse at the beginning of this stage. We see that there are other physiological responses at this phase as well. High arousal is achieved during the plateau phase, in some cases in preparation for orgasm. So, I said the O word. What is orgasm? Many of the responses I've heard generally involved, I don't know how to describe it, but I know I like it. Others have been quite descriptive. Interestingly, scientists are often unable to differentiate between female and male descriptions of orgasm. Scientists have tried to measure exactly what's going on, and the answer is myotonia, an involuntary release of buildup of energy. But remember, you can measure the contractions, but you can't measure the pleasure. How it is perceived is dependent on a person's brain, how they are perceiving the response. Men have a 2-part orgasm and expulsion, but women have the benefit of sometimes being capable of multiple orgasms. It's a bonus. This difference can be seen when we look at the final phase, resolution, and understand the refractory period. And all of those are terms that you should look at in the book. There are, as your book describes, controversies over orgasms. Many of these stem from the fact that people didn't think women had orgasms for most of Western history, and women are different. Some only experience orgasm during intercourse, vaginal orgasms, others only with direct clitoral stimulation, others experience both, and others thoroughly enjoy sex but never achieve orgasm. Oh, and don't forget the Grafenberg spot or G-spot for those lucky enough to have one. It is important to remember the type or lack does not matter, as long as the woman is comfortable with the experience. And gentlemen, you too appear to have more than one type of orgasm, wet and dry, perhaps with different levels of satisfaction, but still worthwhile. And speaking of men, what about penises? Does size matter? Every semester I talk about this. I have one female student who loudly proclaims that it does, but the other 25 to 30 agree it doesn't. And some men prefer large breasts, while others just like breasts. It is similar. In truth, thanks to females' response during sex, see the plateau phase, females are designed to accommodate most sizes, although we usually don't have any room for anything larger than 6 inches. It is interesting to note that there is more variation in the flaccid state than the erect state, so a quick glance may tell you nothing at all. As far as shoe size to determine the size of a man, evidence shows that men with big feet tend to have big shoes. That's it. If you decide to try an aphrodisiac to enhance the experience, the only reason they work is because you think they work. Nothing has been proven to work, and many of them do the exact opposite. What about after sex? Does it matter? As exemplified in the film When Harry Met Sally, it is somewhere between holding your partner for 5 seconds or all night. What is acceptable? Well, that depends on the people involved. If you both like 5 seconds or both like all night, you're in luck. If there's a variation, it's best to compromise. Some people feel that the act is cheapened if one partner rolls over and is snoring while the other one's cuddling. Don't forget that we all need touching of some type, we all need pleasure, and we can all achieve that as long as we find the right partner.